Hi, everyone. Look at that sun. I haven't really been writing anything because I'm caught up in all kinds of other aspects of publishing or editing. But I wrote one of my little stories this morning, so I thought maybe you wouldn't mind if I read it to you. It's probably no good, but anyway, sometimes you make yourself sit down and write something, and you're just glad about it and you want to share it, I guess. It's called A Work of Art. Oh, it's another one of those stories about war, in a sense, but hopefully it won't trigger any traumas. I don't think so. It's called A Work of Art. When I opened the door, he was there, standing with a shy grin, wearing his dirty coat. Hi, Ibrahim, I said. Come in. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Madame Erín? He asked. I'm fine. I ignored that he mixed up my first and last name again. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate your work. Would you mind taking off your boots and carrying them to the back? I know you need them on when you were working. Yeah, oh yes, of course, said Ibrahim. Thank you for coming so soon, I said. Out of all those joints, only one is leaking. Just one. I will fix everything, Madame Erín, he said. You will be completely happy. We both knew we'd offended the other the second time he'd come, and the first time too, when he waggled his finger at me and addressed me menacingly and ignored the diagram of the plumbing connections I gave him, the connections required by the building where I lived to hook up to the common system. The second time, he connected it. It took all day. He clearly hated the confined work area, the constraints of the job, and it was quickly obvious that he was paid by the job and not by the hour. And he'd accepted the job without seeing it, and he was going to be making poor money, and he was taking it out on the world and on me. I too get difficult jobs, I said, in my profession, and I just settle in and do them. Better to do it right now than to have to come back and do it twice for only one price. It wasn't me who priced the job and hired him, after all day I had him muttering in the house, stepping over his coat and tools to get in and out, heard him loudly phoning people in the back, grimacing and growling. And he left, even though I protested that all of it was wrong. It didn't fulfill the minimum requirements. Even the drain pipe by gravity went down, then up for no reason. And even if over its length it descended the 5/8 of an inch required, it can't go down, then up. Gravity does not go up. This job is impossible, he said on his way out. There's no room for flex connectors. Impossible to do this and impossible to do that. And the air valve is missing. Here we were, exactly here. He would have to come back a third time and do it all over. The work did fail the inspection, of course. The contractor was kind and apologetic and said he would send Ibrahim back, but I was furious. I didn't want him. I wanted a real plumber. He was a home invader in his dirty boots and coat, his disdain for me as a woman, and an older one at that. Doesn't he think of his own grandmother? Ibrahim was ruining my sleep and causing me anxiety. So I dreamed him a holiday in Cuba to relax. Please relax, Ibrahim. Awake at night to stop my old self from seething. I dreamed him a beach and palm trees for his wife and children too, and sand and ocean and warmth and calm, released from the cares of life for a week at least. I tried my best. And I didn't protest when the contractor sent him back. It was only fair that he had a chance to fix his own work. And to avoid stress, we were both politer. And he redid everything to code this time and asked me gently what I thought. And I looked, and he answered my questions gently, and I was gentle, and he left. Phew, we did it. Good. Rid of him. Then 6 days later, Sunday afternoon, the sound of water dripping in the back. One of the connections is leaking all over the water heater, all over the floor, mess in the back of the library, and such a tight space to mop up in. Fortunately, the water hadn't seeped to the floor below. I take a photo of the dripping pipe and send it to the contractor, close the water entry, and mop up, upset. I text the contractor, furious. I want a real plumber. I don't want him back in my house. Then at night, I dreamed. I dreamed and dreamed. My grandfather appeared to me. We were walking or sitting and talking at a table outside on Saskatoon Mountain at the edge of the yard or field with the aspens singing above us and eating bread and drinking tea. It was spring, maybe. My grandfather rarely comes to me in dreams. My grandmother does, but not Grandpa. And there he was. I was glad to see him. And he told me, Erín, you don't love the plumber enough. I don't love him at all, I thought. You don't love the plumber enough. It's a hard job he has done, is doing. You have to love him. How can he do a good job? How can he come back a fourth time and do everything over well if you don't love him? A good job can only be done with gladness, and to be glad, we need love. Other people will love you. Think of the ones who love you and show the plumber more love. He needs love too. He's a human man, and he probably has a family and sicknesses all around us and war and food's up, and he probably came from a war and it's winter and he works dragging pipes around. Of course his coat is dirty. We have to show each other more love on this side of the world to balance the war on the other side, where people, so as to love each other, have to repel with arms and bullets again and over again the invader. Peace and patience have the same root. Later, I looked this up. It's not true, but my grandfather was convincing. To make peace, show patience. We are all responsible for increasing the amount of peace in the world, especially now, especially on this side. We all came here because of war. We don't need a deficit of love. I woke up. He was right. I got up and texted the contractor. Ibrahim could come back. He is welcome and I appreciate his work. And I'm sorry for getting upset. It was the heat of the moment. 5 minutes later, a call from Ibrahim. We set a date and I texted him the photo so he could see what leaked. The next day when I opened the door, he was there, standing with a shy grin, wearing his dirty coat. Hi, Ibrahim, I said, come in, how are you? I am fine, thank you. How are you, Madame Erín? He asked. I am fine. Then I ignored that he mixed up my first and last name again. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate your work. Would you mind taking off your boots and carrying them to the back? I know you need them on when you're working. Oh, yes, of course, said Ibrahim. Thank you for coming so soon, I said. Out of all those joints, only one is leaking. Just one. I will fix everything, Madame Erín, he said. You will be completely happy. He came in and I hung his coat in the coat closet with all of my coats, though he protested that it was dirty and could stay on the floor. And I told him how I realized the job was hard and I appreciated him. And there were so many connections and solders, and only one leaked. This leak was an accomplishment. He was polite and assiduous and did it all again, fixing and soldering. We both looked at it and admired, and he gave me a few counsels and took his boots off and carried them to the door. And I passed him his coat out of the closet and he put his boots back on. Grandfather was right. I said to Ibrahim, I go in the back every single day because my library is there. And I look over at the connections to the machine, I think, it's Ibrahim's work of art. He looked at me, letting go his tied laces, and put his right hand over his heart on top of the dirty coat. Thank you, he said, thank you, smiling with his whole face in open pleasure. I am so moved that you say that. And he left. And I cried a bit for all my bad attitude and the energy I'd wasted. And I thanked my grandfather, blacksmith and farmer, Ukrainian immigrant, who came to the lands of the Donzi and Cree to live without war, and who so rarely came to see me in my dreams. Thank you.